Good day, my name is Kimberly Ann Castillo, and the activity 3 question is, what are the components of IT infrastructure? So first is computer hardware platforms. Firms worldwide are expected to spend $704 billion on computer hardware devices in 2018. Includes mainframes, servers, PCs, tablets, and smartphones. All these devices constitute the computer hardware platforms for corporate and personal computing worldwide. Most businesses computing has taken place using microprocessor chips manufactured or designed in Intel Corporation, and to a lesser extent AMD Corporation. Intel and AMD processors are often referred to as i86 processors because the original IBM PCs used in Intel 8086 processor, and all the Intel and AMD chips that followed are downward compatible with this processor. For instance, you should be able to run a software application designed 10,000 years ago to a new PC you bought yesterday, as an example. So next is operating system platforms. The leading operating systems for corporate servers are Microsoft Windows Server, Unix, and Linux. An inexpensive and robust open source related of Unix. Microsoft Windows Server is capable of providing enterprise-wide operating system and network services, and applies to organizations seeking Windows-based IT infrastructures. Unix and Linux are scalable, reliable, and much less expensive than mainframe operating systems. They can also run on many different types of processors. The major providers of Unix operating systems are IBM, HP, and Oracle Sun, each with slightly different and partially incompatible versions. Nearly 90% of PCs use some form of the Microsoft Windows operating system for managing the resources and activities of the computer. However, there is now a much greater variety of client operating system that in the past, with the new operating systems for computing on handheld mobile digital devices or cloud-connected computers. Next is enterprise software applications. firms worldwide are expected to spend about $389 billion in 2018 on software for enterprise applications that are treated as components of IT infrastructure. The large providers of enterprise application software are SAP and Oracle. Also included in this category is middleware software supplied by vendors such as IBM and Oracle for achieving firm-wide integration by linking the firm's existing application systems. Microsoft is attempting to move into the lower ends of this market by focusing on small and medium-sized businesses. Next is data management and storage. Enterprise database management software is responsible for organizing and managing the firm's data so that they can be efficiently accessed and used. The leading database software providers are IBM or DB2, Oracle, Microsoft, or SQL Server, and SAP, Sybase, or Adaptive Server Enterprise. MySQL is a Linux open source relational database product now owned by Oracle Corporation, and Apache Hadoop is an open source software framework for managing very large datasets. Next is marketing or telecommunications platforms. Companies worldwide are expected to spend $1.43 billion for telecommunications system in 2018. Windows Server is predominantly used as a local area network operating system, followed by Linux and Unix. Large enterprise-wide area networks are some variant of Unix. Most local area networks as well as wide area enterprise networks use the TCP or IP protocol suit as a standard. Cisco and Juniper Networks are leading networking hardware providers. Telecommunication platforms are typically provided by telecommunications, telephone services companies that offer voice and data connectivity, wide area networking, wireless services, and internet access. Leading communications service vendors including AT&T and Verizon. This market is exploding with new providers of cellular, wireless, high-speed internet, and internet telephone services. Next is internet platforms. Internet platforms include hardware, software, and management services to support a firm's website, including web hosting services, routers, and cabling or wireless equipment. A web hosting service maintains a large web server or services of servers and provides fee-paying subscribers with space to maintain their websites. The Internet revolution created a veritable explosion in server computers, with many firms collecting thousands of small servers to run their internet operations. There has been a steady push to reduce the number of server computers by increasing the size and power of each, and by using software tools that make it possible to run more applications on a single server. Use of standalone server computers is decreasing as organizations transition to cloud computing servers. The internet hardware server market has become increasingly concentrated in the hands of IBM, Dell, Oracle, and HP, as prices have fallen dramatically. And lastly is consulting and system integration system. Today, even a large firm does not have the staff, the skills, the budget, or the necessary experience to deploy and maintain its entire IT infrastructures. Implementing a new infrastructure requires significant changes in business processes and procedures, training and education, and software integration. Leading consulting firms providing this expertise include Accenture, IBM Services, HP, Infosys, and Wipro. Software integration means ensuring the new infrastructure works with the firm's older so-called legacy systems and ensuring the new elements of the infrastructure work with one another. Legacy systems are generally older transaction processing systems created for mainframe computers that continue to be used to avoid the high cost of replacing or resigning them. Replacing these systems is cost prohibitive and generally not necessary if these older systems can be integrated into a contemporary infrastructure.